Um, Grupo Pachuca trying to trying to wrestle control of the national team of the view of the rights to sell the rights to some other TV,
Mm.
but they're they're the ones that like they put in control the Luisa and all those other guys. So it's been all their people.
Shit, dude. All right, let me get this going then. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 370 of La Cantina MX Football Podcast. Broadcasting live on Twitter Spaces and YouTube. So hop on those channels if you want to hop in the chat or speak up. We have quite a panel tonight with my friend Joel, Soccer Chronicle, and Super Elbow. I'll be going through introductions in quite a bit, but tonight's episode, we're basically going to try and figure out what's going on with this coaching drama for the Mexican national team. Who's calling the shots, who's the influence, and who's going to end up coaching us for the World Cup in 2026. So let's waste no time. How we doing, Joel?
Good, Jaime. I'm doing good. Um, just want to see what the FMF announced. Don't care so much for the phytoxins and whatnot. They just like to steer the pot.
How much of it is smoke? How much of it is truth? You're going to have to read between the lines.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Phytoxin, he's like a snake's oil merchant. He's he just likes to, you know.
We also have Soccer Chronicle joining us. He's on mute, but welcome.
Hey, welcome, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. Last week it was Biesla talk. Oh, and it's how quick the tables turn now. It's Team Piojo versus Team Almada, and
I
it's
still have my doubts about that.
yeah.
Yeah, because most of the stuff that you're reading right now, across many publications and stuff like that, it's just all hearsay. But even if we entertain the idea that Bielsa is no longer in contention or whatever, um, I think it's the right move because I mean, if you really think about it, we had Tata Martino, and then before that we had Juan Carlos Osorio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the criticisms in the last two cycles was, you know, that the coaches had a hard time really trying to get their ideas across because they just weren't, part of, or they weren't part of the Mexican football ecosystem, you know?
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's like you you can't criticize the head honchos for listening now to what the fans, most of the fans and most of the press wanted, in regards to the criticisms of the last two cycles. So obviously, you may not like, Almada, you may not like, Piojo, but they've been successful. So
What I'm trying to understand is who are the ones that were for Biesla and who are the ones that were against Biesla?
well, it's funny you say that because I mean, I know, and I've spoken with this, many times that obviously there's like it's almost like it's like the NWO. I mean, it's almost like it's wrestling. There's factions, and there's always been factions within the first division, right?
Yeah.
Certain factions want control, and and I had posted this I had posted this one a couple of days ago to the private chat because I was looking at financial information from the Mexican Stock Exchange and looking at the companies that are involved, in Mexican soccer, and you could see, like for example, in Televisa's, financials, they're board members. You have guys like the what's his name, Ron. The guy from what's his name, Tijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I'm reading articles saying that for example that Chivas, I'm sorry, America, Santos, Tijuana,
Tijuana.
and Chivas were all part of this a committee. Well, Tijuana, I mean that it doesn't surprise me because like I said, I'm just trying to cross reference like who's who's basically in bed with who. And like I was looking at the board members of like for example America Móvil, FEMSA, CEMEX, Grupo Televisa, Grupo Salinas, for TV Azteca and stuff like that. So I'm trying to get a picture of who's basically in cahoots with who. Like because I mean you see the same names, you see a lot of like cross referencing between guys like in the companies like City and Banorte and stuff like that. And like I said, once you start looking at that and you start seeing, it's like oh, I recognize that name. I recognize that name. Oh, that guy's also on a board of this other company who basically represents X, soccer, company. What's the name? The dude from that Elias Ayub.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example. So that's what I'm kind of like interested as to you know, who's going to be running the show. And that's why like when I was looking at Televisa's financials and looking at their board members and I had a bunch of them, it's like okay, this makes sense now. But again, I just think the whole process is a shit show.
Yeah. And it's like unfortunate that it's the clubs that are basically like influencing the next coach. Like you were mentioning how in England everything's like separate. I
Yeah,
feel I feel
it
like it
should.
needs to be done that way.
It should go back to that. It should be completely independent, autonomous.
As far as Almada and Piojo, are we really gonna bring back Piojo, man? How is he even like nominated for this shit? I don't understand. I don't know where they're coming from. He already had a chance.
He's in a heavy political campaign, and he's easily influenced by America's owner. As far as I'll put you in that position, but you got to scratch my back with certain things. Because if you think about it, Piojo fracaso with America, fracaso with Tigres, and everyone says 2014 Piojo this, Piojo that. You also have to remember that's probably one of the most talented national teams out of 2010, 14, 15, and 22. 2018 can make that argument, but it's not like he had a random ass team. He had like a bunch of players in their prime.
Yeah, and I don't see much changing from him having a second go at it. But he's the only Mexican coach, right? That's like available.
Yeah, but I just think it's just politics with Piojo. He's gonna be playing their game. Whatever game they want him to play, you want me to do commercials, I'll do commercials. You want me to keep calling these guys up, I'll keep calling them up. He's basically on a president, when presidential candidates go on tour, that's basically what he's doing right now.
We have to do better than Piojo. And Almada seems like the obvious choice. Very successful with Pachuca. It was a young team. Will that translate to the national team, though?
Well, there's a thing. Almada's sending signs. I think he started with Pachuca with 8 Mexican players. So, and he's handing them playing good. They're saying that Trophy showed up a week early to train, and he was doing like 3 a days because Almada's style that requires a lot of pressing. So I mean, he's throwing signs out there like, look, I can make the team play well. I got 8 Mexicans starting. I got youth. Like he's showing the right signs on the field.
Ma-
My criticism of Almada is this, and there's a world of difference. I'm telling you, there's a world of difference coaching America and coaching Pachuca. And why do I say this? Because I know that Piojo has been he's coached the national team and he's coached America. Basically, it's a shit show when it comes for the press. And whether he was able to handle the pressure with America twice, because I mean honestly, Almada. the press in Pachuca, they're more like cheerleaders.
Well, it's a small market.
Exactly, and that's my point. And that goes that to
Okay,
me.
but come on.
That to me is that to me is just like, can he? Okay, you can
Wait,
handle you
I
can
know where you're going with this, and I'm not trying to interrupt you, but you're forgetting something very important.
yeah.
Piojo couldn't handle the pressure. He punched a journalist.
But
I'm just saying.
Martinelli, come on, you know.
No, I mean he
Uh,
kept Martinelli, whatever, kept criticizing
That
him,
that
and
wasn't
he
over
finally
pressure
found him and
though.
he punched him. You
yeah,
can't
But
come
that
out
was
here saying he
personal.
handled the
That
pressure.
was personal. He was attacking his family. He was attacking his daughter.
yeah,
I'm not justifying anything, but his punch wasn't over pressure. About his look, look how well he handled pressure. He got criticized for the Gold Cup from day one. He ended
yeah,
up winning it. He won it, and it was to the point. And this was a shame to see that there were a lot of people. The press were saying that the refs were cheating in favor of Mexico. And it's so stupid because that happened during the whole FIFA gate, during the
yeah.
whole investigation, and it's in the U.S. and the investigation is coming out of the U.S. So it's kind of dumb to think that they're gonna do that level of cheating during a big investigation, right in the home of where the whole investigation came out.
I wouldn't say it's
And
that level of cheating, but you do remember that PK against Panama, it was not a penalty.
I remember the Panamanian player dropping on top of the ball, like if he's playing AYSO.
Exactly,
And
No,
then
it's
there
not a
exactly.
was
penalty.
there, there
Everybody
was
was saying,
it was.
Rosado,
Did you
if you
see?
have any
Did you see?
shame, you would miss it. Like, this is not a
That's dumb,
penalty,
dude.
blah, blah, blah. It was not a penalty.
I
It
did
was,
see it because there was
it
two
was.
angles. There was two angles, and the one they were showing it looked dubious, but they showed the angle from the other side, the Mexican TV angle, and that one you could clearly see that he's obstructing the ball, that he handles it on purpose. It was a
Yeah.
dude. That was a dumbass mistake to make as a
There,
player. Like,
there was like what Holy was saying. There was a camera angle that they didn't show during the transmission, but you saw it after. That was clear as day that it was a penalty. I'm sorry, that it wasn't penalty in favor of Mexico. But going back to what I'm saying is that to me is the only thing that has me worried about Almada is okay. You can handle the pressure when you basically have a really small market where basically the press there are a bunch of cheerleaders. You know,
Ron, I think I'd normally agree with you on this one. I think that and again, I'm kind of indifferent at this point as to who would be the manager. But I think in terms of if the goal is to have a coach that works with youth, Almada seems to have done a pretty good job with that. And I understand the part where it certainly helps to manage a team. Uh, of the stature of America. But if you're looking to work with youth and younger players and try to build them up, then Almada probably is a little bit better of an option in terms of that. Piojo's good. He's a little bit of a little bit more of a rah rah guy, right? Uh,
I don't agree with that, Mikodo.
no. He's not. I'm not saying he's a terrible coach, but he gets a lot out of players because he's a rah rah guy, right?
But
He's Barney
Gotta hit the buttons.
Rubble with an attitude.
I, no, I understand like the motivational type of that. I like to think there's more than that, more than just you know, than just doing rah rah. I think some of it has to do also with
His tactic.
willing to, yeah, with the tactical
Yeah,
to
yeah.
an extent. I know he's not seen as a tactical genius, but he doesn't have to be. I and if we see his numbers across the board, he's one of the best coaches in Liga
He's
MX.
very good. Yeah.
We,
Right.
we'll call fracaso because he didn't win the league. But if you see how many points he did through the season, how many matches he's won,
And I don't.
things like that, he's very favorable.
And I don't see him as a fracaso because, come on, I think the way that's used in Mexico, that word's used in Mexico, man, is a little bit overrun. But I
of
think
course.
in my head, honestly, if they're talking about the working with younger players and trying to get them into a specific zone. I do like what Almada has done with Pachuca. Uh,
Yeah. Well, Pachuca,
but
but see, let's keep this in mind too. Pachuca has been working with youth, regardless who the coach is.
mhm.
That's kind of one of their main things to work with the X amount of youth to sell them, some abroad, some within. But that's sort of their MO. Same
Right.
as same as Santos and now Atlas is gonna be doing this. But for Piojo, he had a lot of youth when he was at America.
Yep,
A
he
lot
did.
that ended up going to Europe, and that
No, no,
he doesn't
that was
get none of
that was
that
La
credit.
Volpe.
And I'm not giving him credit, but I'm saying he's worked with youth as well. He's not like
No, he did. He hasn't done half bad. I just think
because
honestly,
that's criticism.
I think him coming back, it'll probably, and I won't call it all political, but it's going to help him that he has ties right to Televisa.
Now, one of the
Oh,
things that I
that's
don't,
for sure. Yeah.
one of the things that I don't see it as a valid criticism is the whole campaigning thing. Because here's the thing: you're not a club coach. If you were doing that as a club coach, I'd like, whoa, because you're working every day. You're a national team, dude. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to have the players every day. You're going to have them once, twice, what in total out of 30 something days in a month. What you're going to have them 6 days, 6 7 days in a month. So I mean, there's time to do the promotions because obviously, hey, they got to make money. Money's not the sin here. So I just I don't get that criticism. But that's just me, I guess.
Well, I don't even know the whole working with, like because we get all these talking points, but a lot of them are from the media, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of them it's just stuff that they're pushing. And I know Grupo Pachuca has been guilty of all the Bielsa talk, even Almada. That's all Grupo Pachuca pushing their agenda, and it's and then it influences like us as fans, and now we're talking about that. So it's like if it wasn't an issue, now it is. So now we're talking about like work with youth, and it's like, well, why does he have to work with youth? It's not like the team is old or that it needs to be top to bottom, a
No,
generational change or
could you
anything.
name a starting 11 right now?
Well, yeah, probably you guys won't like it, but I
No,
can
but I
name
mean,
them.
Well, that's the point. Generational switch. So what you want your starting 11 include Ochoa, Guardado, Herrera, Moreno. That's
Not
what people mean
Guardado.
by youth. There needs to be a generational change. I mean, the
No, but
idea is
there's
you bring in a coach for 2026. You don't have qualifiers. It's not like you got to bring in the veterans, the experience, and you got qualifiers. You got to make the World Cup. The plan is you're planning towards 2026 and who is good with youth, who is good at discovering youth, who is good at propelling youth and giving them that confidence.
and
Tigres, when he was at Tigres, they did not have any player under 21 play a single minute.
yeah, that was his criticism. He got in trouble for saying that was an old team.
No, but his criticism was that he didn't play any player under 21. Tigres, out of all the top 60 leagues in the world, Tigres was like top 10 as far as not giving youth players chances. Think of the
Well,
top
that's been them
60
for a
leagues
long
in the world,
time.
how many teams that is, and with Piojo not giving youth a chance. So that's a criticism. How you expect this guy to come out and get rid of and lead a generational change for 2026 when even when he was a club coach, he was not good at it.
no, Alpo. So I will agree with, and again, I don't think Joel and Ron are wrong also, but I do recall the reason that Piojo did get canned is he criticized the age of the team. Now whether it's the way Tigres wanted to run that team with the older squad, or whether it was
Well,
him,
they have
that
they have
was
one
what.
of the.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Oh no, just adding to what you're saying. With
Yeah.
Tigres, they have one of the highest payrolls,
Mm-hmm.
and so at the same time, he's not going to have that say over just he's going to bench a couple of these dudes that are earning in the millions. They're not paying some dude, and I know people have always criticized his a lot of when he goes after players because he'll go after like players that seem pretty average. If you see like his purchases, he rarely goes for the bombazo, and I think that's also been one of the points in his favor with
Mhm.
this national team, where it's like there's not that many players right now that you can say are, like that. At one point, Jimenez. At another point, you had um, Rafa Marquez or player like that. That's to that extent. Maybe Chucky, but not even. He's always injured. So, but I think we have like a pretty average squad. I don't mean it in a bad way, but I think they see him as someone that could get the most out of them. Um, Pastor said earlier how the team he had was very talented. Well, that same talented team was choking during the hexagonal, and you could blame the coach all you want, but you go watch some of the games, and that's the players like doing some shit passes. I don't think Chepo said get to the corner and then send the ball to the rafters. You know, and it was so bad with these guys that
Uh,
they were
well,
talking about
let's not go
just
back to
sending.
Chepo. I think he lost the locker room. But
Hoyle, the whole Piojo in Tigres. Like, did you ever watch the movie The Damned United?
I haven't, dude.
Oh, that's a great movie. It's basically it's about it's about Brian Clough, right? Who's an English manager back in the 60s and 70s. He's the one that won the Champions League with Nottingham Forest. Okay, back in the 70s and 80s, right? Well, he takes over Leeds United, who basically and they were coached by Don Revie, right? And it was basically he was like a Tuca Ferretti. He was just an institution at Leeds. So basically, Brian Clough goes in there, and he tries to set his way, and it just goes piss poor. I mean, I don't think he even lasted 2 months with the team, right? Because
Yeah,
he criticized Brian Clough criticized Don Revie's championships, his titles, his players, and stuff like that. So obviously, when he went in there, boom, they just did not want him. In a way, I kind of feel that was going to happen to Piojo Herrera
Bielsa.
at,
Oh,
at Tigres, because people still, I mean, they're fresh in their minds with Tuca and all those titles that they won, in the 2010s,
yeah.
So I don't know. I personally wouldn't have taken the job, but any manager that's going to take it, I think, is going to have issues because everybody's always going to go back to Tuca. But Piojo's right, man. That team is old now, and
That
and,
team
and
is a title contender right now under a different coach.
but I don't see them. I don't see Tigres right now being able to do what Tuca did for as long as he did.
Okay, but that's not the point. The point is that right now, from what we've seen up to this moment in the tournament, Tigres is a contender to the title. Now, if
Three
they
games.
go and
Three
fall
games is
off
too
the
early.
next 6 games and lose 6 games in a row, well, then the narrative changes. But from what we've seen on the field, Tigres is a contender for the title and is basically the same roster Piojo had. And now you have someone who's considered to be more tactically knowledgeable, has turned the team around.
3 games is too early. It's way too early to tell.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Up to what we
Well,
see now, he has the same roster Piojo had, and he has them playing a lot better, and they look like a title contender.
No, I get that. I get that. But like I
pues
said,
miren, chavos. A mí me gustan los frijoles y el arroz, and I didn't get any of those names that were mentioned earlier. But my question here is, El Piojo, has he learned his lessons? Because every single time that he got fired was because of his temper and everything else that he did outside of the field. El fregadazo que le metió Martinelli, here, se lo mereció Martinelli, 100%. Pero it cost him his job. La jalada de greña que le metió en la Nations League, no, Nations Champions, la pinche CONCACAF, le costó el trabajo. Diciendo que los jugadores se le hicieron viejos, le costó el trabajo. ¿Cuántos juegos se pasó en el balco por tarjetas rojas? So the question is, has he learned his lesson? Has Piojo gotten into the good graces to
No,
be
but
the
I
Mexican
think that's
national
what.
coach again?
No, but it's funny. The irony is what they hate about him is probably what they love about him the most, and
Yep.
that's that
But it's
fiery
also what
attitude.
Almeida gives us. It's also what Almeida gives us.
Yep.
And aquí está la otra pregunta. ¿Necesitamos un técnico o necesitamos un formador? Because I'm not even looking at 2026. I'm looking at 2030 because we need a generational change.
You don't
So
need,
who's
but you
going
don't
to
need
lead that in?
formador for selección.
Yeah, you
That's
don't.
not the national
That's not.
team's not to form players. That's
Yeah.
another talking point from the media where and
It
they
is.
pushed
It
it
is.
so
But here's the
hard.
thing.
They pushed it so hard. The club has to send the player to Europe so they could be ready for the national team. And the national team has to form players. That's not really how it works. Because the national team is for the best players available. If the team doesn't, if there's not that many good players, then that has more to do with the league than with the national team is not forming their own, unless they end up doing like their own academy.
And that is true. But unfortunately, our league
I'm,
is not doing that.
But
Like,
it's been treated
unfortunately,
as a
let's look at
formador.
Chivas.
You literally have players that are on the bench being brought up to the national team so they can get minutes.
Let's talk about Linus. Let's talk about Marcelo. Pinche la mamada que le damos todo el tiempo. What do we want from them? ¿Formadores or jugadores? Because neither of them are getting playtime. Pero aquí se la estamos mamando todos los días.
And is Linus going back to Mexico?
Tigres, they're saying
He got
Tigres.
Those
signed.
are the words.
Pathetic.
Well, I
Hey,
thought he was
they're
going to
getting younger, man.
and that's a
Why is
mistake.
it pathetic? Wait, why
And
is
that,
it pathetic? The dude just couldn't hack it. You could say bad luck, or you could say he's just not good enough. But
He has a
in the
European
league,
passport now.
I
yeah.
think
But
that's
if the teams aren't offering for him, what is he
You
gonna
go
do?
back to Betis, you roll up your sleeves, and you butt fuck your way to the starting 11. Like, I don't understand how hard that is to do. You go in, you show up
Well,
early, you leave late, you do everything in your power to make yourself the obvious candidate.
he
players'
shouldn't have
careers
never
are
left.
short, though.
He
That's
should
why.
have never left in the first place.
Yeah, I
Coulda, shoulda,
agree.
woulda.
See,
He
see,
made the wrong decision going to Betis over Ajax, but at the same
yeah, but
time, he's just letting whatever coach just put him to the side. But you can go in training and ball out, dude. You're telling me you can't win somebody over if you ball out every single day?
exactly. You
you
have a
never know,
guaranteed
man.
contract.
You can, but if the coach already doesn't have you in your plans, I mean you're dead in the water. I mean
Yeah,
But
was
look at Chicha.
was
but
his
Chicha
other
Man U
option
with
playing in
I
the
Moyes.
I would agree that maybe it was a coach thing, but then he went to Braga and didn't do a fucking thing. So if
Hey,
it's like I don't know, man. You have to look at the common denominator, and that's Linus, and maybe he's just not putting in the effort.
Hey, Pollo Briseño had a better career in Europe than Linus.
I
And
think
then
players like
talking
Linus,
about
majority of like Euro coaches don't really like him. He's like the type. Uh, don't crucify me here, but I'm gonna compare him to like Riquelme, who didn't even want him in Barca, right? He ended up doing good in Villarreal, but he's kind of that type of player where a lot of the some of these Euro teams they don't really want that type of player no more.
Bingo.
They want
And you know why?
they want more of
Because
the workhorse, taller, stronger.
and you know why? Because Linus plays better when he's roaming,
Yeah,
and that doesn't fit in many systems anymore. They don't want that roaming player anymore. I mean
yeah.
that was that was his magic when he played with in America and when he played with national team youth teams. When you had basically Linus fixed in a role, but when he was roaming and he was able to think and create, that's when he was most dangerous. I just honestly, I think he needs to go to a club, and I think he needs a better, I think he needs to really do some soul searching. And
And do you think Tigres is that team, or is he going to be
no,
riding the pine there?
no, Coca's rigid. He's not one of those. I don't see him doing well with Coca.
You want him back at America? What is it, Ron?
With that,
You want him
mm,
back at America? Is that the way you?
no, I mean I think he should. I mean, what's done is done. He should have stayed. He should have stayed at least another year in Mexico to consolidate himself. But what's done is done. You're in Europe. you know what? At least stay there enough time to get the damn EU passport, and then
Jaime says he already
He
has
already
it.
has it.
Since when? I didn't catch that one.
He's been there for over 3 years
Oh,
now.
hold on, let me see. Yeah, I thought he didn't have it. Oh, like,
No, he has it.
Well, the amount of offers he was being offered wasn't anything, right? He was probably on the verge of playing in Cyprus, man.
Diego
You're
Lainez
right.
obtained his
You're-
Spanish nationality. This was back in 2021.
oh shit, I didn't
Yeah.
realize. No, you're right because he won in 2018. I thought you had to play in Spain, or I thought you had to play in Europe a little longer to get it. I didn't realize it
No,
was
but
that.
No,
In Spain, if you're from Latin
he
America,
pulled one of those.
I,
My grandparents are Spanish or some bullshit. You know.
or you get it even faster. You could get it faster like that. But I think if you're from Latin America, then I think it's like 2 years. But you have to live there for 2 years. You can't leave.
I'm just say he's a
Nosotros
weasel.
llegamos en
He's a little
barcos.
weasel. That's all he is. He had
He,
offers from Getafe. He could have had some pride, a chip on his shoulder, and say, "All right, I'll say yeah to Getafe on the loan. Because now they're gonna buy me. I'm gonna ball out and show Betis what they're missing out.
but
I'll play Betis on the second round and beat them." But no, what did he say? Oh, America wants me. Oh, America, I haven't done anything in Europe. You're the team I love, the team of my heart. Give me 2 million, make me the best player on your roster. Now, whether that was
hey,
him or that was his dad or his influence, the kid has no pride. It's like Jaime said, he doesn't want to
well,
put in the work and prove others wrong. The kid's a
it's
bust.
not just that pride. There's also that's their job. So you have to keep in mind that for a lot of these guys, that's all they know how to do is play. And so they
And
got a
he
short
sucks
amount
at
of
it.
time to make as much money as they can and set themselves up. Not
Bro,
only
his money came from. I
themselves,
mean, his family
What
came
you're
from money,
saying
dude.
makes no sense though, because
but for you as a
if you
fan,
would
you
have
want to
if he
be
would have been the
entertained. So
starter at Betis right now, he'd be making the same amount of money as him
oh,
off the
you'll be
bench.
surprised.
He might go with some bonuses or whatever. So the idea is you already have a guaranteed contract with Betis. Have some pride. Go to Getafe. Go to the other Spanish team from First Division that are offering you a 6 month loan and throw that. Have try to prove a point to Betis that you can play in the league. Prove a point to yourself. Tigres, America, they're always going to be there. He's 22 years old. And he still had a contract with Betis. He could end that contract on trying to prove his point in Europe 2 years from now, be a free agent, and Tigres will still ball out on him. He's young.
Yeah, he's
If
super
anything,
young.
that's the point why players should leave to Europe young. Because even if you fail, Liga MX is willing to buy you back and pay you top money because you have that quote
They
unquote
have that safety
European
blanket. They can
experience.
always
That's not always the case.
they can
That's
always
not
come
always
back to
the case.
Mexico
Yeah,
and
there's
cash out.
exceptions of the rule,
That
but it
didn't
tends to
happen
be
to
the case.
Davila. That didn't happen to
Honestly,
Tigres brought back
Davila, who left
Salcido. They
to
brought back
Chelsea.
Piojo Reyes. Now they're bringing back
honestly,
Lainez.
coming back with your tail tucked is not a good fit in Liga MX because you have a press that's unforgiving, and they're going to constantly use that against that player, that manager, that institution that hires
I
a
feel like
player
he's
that they
another Aquino. He's another Aquino, man.
no. That is a tough. I mean, if you're going to come back to Liga MX, at least do it. If you're gonna come back, at least do it at like even like Yun did relatively well in Portugal. I wouldn't come back the way Linus is coming back personally.
That's the whole other point there. Like Yoon had a better career than Lainez, and I think we can agree Lainez is quote unquote more talented
Yeah.
potential wise.
It's not even fair to compare because his career hasn't even started yet.
La
So
diferencia es que la Jun tuvo los huevos de creer en sí mismo
Hey,
versus
are you
Linus
guys
isn't
say
doing it.
you guys say the
That's the
same
difference.
about Cardoso?
what about Cardoso?
He went to he
When
failed
in
in Europe.
Europe, he sucked ass. He ended up in Liga MX.
He's not Mexican.
I know, but still, look at the career he went on to have. Would you say the same thing?
Linus is not
Would he
Cardoso,
stayed
bro.
in Europe? Yeah, but my point is, you could stay in Europe and then move around, right?
I think
Because it's not.
Joel, I think the only difference is kind of what Ron said. The media wasn't going to eat up Cardoso.
No, but and look, if we look at the majority
Did people even know who Cardoso was before he?
No, Cardoso It's funny with Cardoso. Cardoso, before he even became Cardoso, he had a very like almost career threatening injury, and
Yeah.
and for some reason, the scouts uh, decided to basically told the front office just wait him out. He's going to be good, and they were right.
Yeah, look, my point in this is that not making in Europe is not always has to do with the talent or not having huevos. Sometimes you just don't adjust to living in another country or being away from home. So it's not for everyone. Uh,
and and that's one of
and
the
you
things.
could
That's a very important point because the Spaniard, the Italian, the German, the Englishman, the Frenchman, they don't need to go abroad. They're there's a clip I think there's that clip of that Uruguayan player that played for Pumas, where it's basically saying that the Mexican player is blessed because unlike us, he was referring to South Americans and Uruguayans that, we don't have the luxury of, being able to play in our country, walking our kids to school, being with your friends and family. And he's like, you say about the Mexicans, don't have a strong mentality. He's like, but where are they really, do they need to go? And in fact, let me try to find that clip and I'll post it so you guys can see it. But the guy was spot on that, I don't personally see Europe as the end all be all, you know, because like I said, Hermosillo, he didn't do well in Europe. Doesn't mean he wasn't a good player, And before, I've told you this before that I didn't need Pardo to go to the Bundesliga to validate him that he was a good player. I knew that beforehand. I knew that back in '98 and '97 and '99, you know. So it's like for Pardo to go to Europe and do well in the Bundesliga. Oh my God! Now he's good. That's a crock of shit, you know.
No, he never
and
needed the validation. At the same time, though, the game has changed. It's not the '90s anymore, and I don't think Liga MX is as competitive as it used to be.
No, you're right, and because we don't have a measure, we don't have a way to measure ourselves. Other Nations League ain't it? Gold Cup ain't it? The only way you could tell was basically the South American tournament
Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana. Yeah.
and Copa America. Those are the only exams that were valid. You know, because you knew where you were at. You knew where the league was up against with other formidable teams. You knew how both the national team and the league.
Yep.
If you ask me, it's just another Cordoba. Cordoba couldn't handle the beef he had going at America, so he ran up Piojo's arms. He couldn't make a breakthrough move either. And Linus and him are gonna be the same thing. They're gonna be sharing the same bunk and everything.
these are too negative,
They
man.
need each other.
No quieren ir a picar piedra. Ese es el pedo. Like, la vida del futbolista no es fácil,
It's
¿verdad?
not. It's not. That's why as fans, it's we can be very overly demanding, and it's
Yeah,
like stuff we won't
Yeah.
even
Fuck
do.
all that,
We won't
man.
even do that.
Our
We won't even
mentality
do
is
No,
so
that.
no,
weak,
over the
dude.
man. You said different country. He went to Spain where they speak Spanish. Guardado just came out today. He says that he's Mexican, but he feels Spanish. Come on, it's not like he went to
Dude,
Holland to
Guardado
practice
has
the
lived in
language.
Spain for more than he's lived in Mexico, probably at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
but
it's not the
He
same
left
for
at what,
everyone, man. It's
17? How old
he
was
went to a
he?
country where they speak his language, man.
it's not, dude. It's not the same, man. I'm telling you, I've traveled with groups of friends, and you some of them you kind of see how they change, and you'll be in another country for 3 days, and you're like, who is this dude? Some people just crack, man, when you're in a whole different environment. Yes, it's the same language, but there's still a lot of differences.
You basically
And
assimilate to the culture.
some people can, some people can. I'm telling
yeah.
you, some people need to
It's
be close to their family. Some people need that closeness to their family and friends. And
it's and that's true. And I've told you that you guys that know me personally, you guys know this. My dad spent the last, he's retired now, but he spent the last 25, 30 years living overseas. You name it, China, France, Chile, Peru, you name it, he was there. And one of the things that he could never get past was he just loved Mexican food too much. He
The
La
hated the
food,
other
you
cuisines.
you
He
frijoles.
beat me
hated the
to
other
it.
cuisines. He hated the
You
other
beat me
cuisines
to
that. So he hated the other cuisines that much that he would, when he would travel, because he would come, he would come back, every, depending the project, every 2 weeks or every month, he would just stock up on, like, harina for to make masas and stuff like that. And it's just, Dad, come on, you're telling me you don't like the food over there? No, it sucks. No, it
I
sucks.
had, I had seen some. They were talking about the Brazilian team and some of the problems they had early on, and they said that they ended up having to take their own chef to
Yeah,
make and not even Brazilian food, but kind of like Brazilian, kind of like the street food, because a
yeah.
lot of these dudes were like from favelas and they'll eat like feijoada or some plate that they like, and so they took someone just so that keep these dudes happy, man.
That's
And this is
crazy.
for
I remember in Germany 20 in '06 Germany. I remember going to games, and you would see a lot of paisas get basically detained to the side because they brought in their little salsa bottles, because I've told you that story before. Like this one guy was almost basically in tears because they were taking his damn his little bottle of salsa because honestly the food's not that good over there. But
Bro, we be smuggling in some cheese. Man, we have a whole duffel bag dedicated to cheese, bro.
yeah,
Every time we go.
runs a guy that takes tortillas to the Korean barbecue.
I don't believe in
His
that
little grill.
bullshit, dude. If I'm gonna go to a restaurant, I'm not gonna cook. Cause if I cook, I'm not gonna pay.
yeah, those guys always rag on me because I always go to the Korean barbecues.
Nah.
They
I
saying that I
the
get
last
suckered
thing after
to
a
cook my
hard
own
day of
food.
work is going to a restaurant and them telling you, oh, you gotta cook your own food. Fuck that, dude. I'm not gonna pay then.
So it sounds like Nesta bien pendejo. All that money, he can get himself a Mexican nanny to go over there with him.
I
That's what
also
Guardado
I,
did.
I also have to wonder how much of like maybe his own dad is in his way. How much of an influence is that? When you have
Yeah,
a father that's kind of like cog blocking you in a way.
that was with Gio. His dad was always there, like with the negotiations and whatnot.
Like I don't know, bro. I feel like
That's a double edged. I mean, that could be a double edged sword.
the Mexican is too coddled, bro. They got to take their whole family and their grandma when they go to Europe. It's like, dude, like be a
Hey,
man.
you'll be surprised. A lot of South Americans do that. You you'll be surprised, right? Especially with the new rule when they did when they changed for the under 18. So your parents had one of your parents at least had to go to Europe. It wasn't no more. You couldn't just go as a youth.
Just take your
Well,
significant
remember,
other and start a new life, bro.
th-
You know, you
Hey,
know.
family,
didn't
no
the,
family. It doesn't change the fact his career in Europe was a bust. For the benefit of Mexico, hopefully he turns it around at Tigres and maybe he'll
But
get a second chance.
why? But like, who cares if it was a bust? I'm saying, like, why make a big stink about it? Like,
You
who gives
don't
a shit?
you don't have to make a dig. He just happens to be
What do
the
you mean?
flavor
Who
of the
gives a
week.
shit? You as a Mexico fan should wish that he would have had a great career and he was killing it in Europe right now.
I
Because
no, I don't need to.
that's
As long as
considered
he
that was considered to be one of Mexico's most promising players.
it look, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't. He could have the bomb ass career and then not do anything in the selección. You guys will still be busting his nuts. Same with Hugo, the big criticism.
I
He
think
didn't do anything with the national team,
this is
and he had the best career of everyone in
Yeah,
Europe.
but the national team, regardless anything, the national team will most likely continue to be booty. But at least with Hugo Sanchez, you get hyped watching him on the weekend score with
Well, there,
Madrid. Just how you
see,
get
there you
hyped
go.
watching Chicharito score with United. It was just a great feeling watching a Mexican abroad killing
yeah,
it.
Raul
So even
before
if you
Sideshow
didn't
Bob
do
killed him.
anything with even if you
Yeah,
didn't
it
do
is,
anything
but
with national team, it
I'm
still be
not.
nice to watch him scoring goals in Betis versus Madrid, Barcelona. Like Carlos Vela when he was at Real Sociedad. He wasn't at Madrid, he wasn't at Barca, but he and Griezmann were tearing up the league. He was voted third best player, foreign player behind Messi and Cristiano. And yeah, he didn't give a selection a World Cup. He didn't do nothing out of the ordinary with the national team. but you as a fan still enjoy watching a Mexican be
Yeah, but
successful abroad. So
I
I
enjoy.
don't understand how you can say who gives a shit that it was a bust.
Well, I mean, because we're we're like
I think
we're
for me,
sort of
he's
like
not the only one
putting
who's
our.
been a bust. You know,
We're, I'm sorry. Go on.
he's not the only one, and he won't
Oh,
be the last. He won't be the last
he
one
This
will.
is
either. You know,
this is the big
Well,
problem, right? The big problem is number one, we just don't export enough players. So the ones that we do carry way too much importance and way too much like I guess pressure, right? It's like any player that we send abroad, like it just takes on way too much pressure, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be sending them by
mm-mm.
the bucket load, bro, and we're not doing it. So the
but
very
Yeah.
the very
it,
few that go out there and aren't successful, like if you look at like Brazil or Argentina, bro, you probably couldn't keep up with the amount of like players abroad they have, and and
And the players that don't make it.
exactly. And like they don't have time to focus on them because there's too many that are doing a great job. And it's just like we just don't have those kind of numbers. So
Well, no, just really quick for me, it's like I'm not gonna like rag on the player. I think his livelihood will come first, and then if he can entertain me, cool. But if not, I'm not gonna be mad at him because he chose what is best for him. So it might not be, you know, like again, these guys' careers can end
but it does
from
merit
one
criticism
day
because
to
they
the
are
next.
professionals.
You
would
can wish
anybody
him well and still say that his career so far is a bust with as far as Europe.
Just
yeah,
in Europe,
He's
he was
not
good
one or the
career in
other.
Mexico.
What?
his
His
career in
career was
Mexico
good
was
in,
good,
yeah,
No, I
and
said
that's
his
still
career
yet
in
to be
Europe was a
determined.
bust. In Mexico,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
he got Mex
yeah,
champ in Mexico.
yeah.
But you can
No,
support him and hope that he does well at Tigres and turns his career around and still accept that it was a bust.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I'm not arguing that it wasn't, but I'm just saying I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm not going to dwell on that fact because it's a lot of times it's even luck. We could see with Raul Jimenez, if he would have gone straight to Atletico and then he wouldn't have not made it, probably had another agent, would have been back at Tigres after 6 months. He had a really good agent, ended up going to Wolves and had that great great stint with them. And that some of that was just having the right people around him. You don't always get that. Um, like Davila, I mentioned Davila earlier, got bought by Chelsea. They sent him to second division. I forgot the team. He played really good. Then they sent him to another team. They bounced him around so much, and then he comes back and he couldn't hack it in Liga MX. I think he's in New Zealand right now. I don't know where he ended up. Australia, somewhere over there.
I think it was Australia.
So I mean, I don't think he like enjoys that career where you're just globetrotting, and
Dude,
it's
Gully has a
not
job
nice.
still. How?
I think
It's a
Gooley's
good
being used for
torture for
money
him.
Gouli is
laundering.
going to Saudi Arabia.
Bro, he's being used for money laundering. I swear,
Is
something.
he really gonna play in the same league as Ronaldo? Oh
No, no,
my!
he's in the Qatari league.
Wait, who's in the Qatar league?
Gooley.
Really?
Oh my
No,
god!
no, the Emirates. He's in the Emirates.
Yeah, but
Willie
it's part
Peña.
of the Qatari league, right? Because there's Saudi Arabia and then there's the Qatari league.
Yeah,
Wait,
no.
Qatar
But
has their own league?
Goulet Peña is playing in the Emirates, not Qatar.
I'm pretty sure. I'll look it up. I mean, I'll look it up right now.
No
Somebody.
sooner
With,
does he arrive in the United Arab Emirates. Yep.
but what's the
I
league
mean,
called?
it's the best way to keep him sober, right? Why not?
it's like a torture, dude. It is torture for him. Uh, it's,
But like, no joke. What if he balls out? Like he's dry and he's
I
like the
hope
best form he's been.
he can be, dude. He has that talent.
I
Cause
just
like you guys remember him like with like
I do.
in Leon, fucking when he was playing in South America, not in South America, when they were playing Copa Libertadores, and Leon said todo para la Copa Libertadores, and they got out and they came back and they kicked ass in Mexico and they won it. Like, and Gulli was a big part of that.
Yeah, just undisciplined.
That's crazy that he's on this team. Oh, there's another Mexican on that team by the name of Hugo de Oliveira.
Hmm.
So he won't be alone. That is crazy though. We haven't talked about Liga MX. Toluca beat Chivas.
Is Paleta Esqueda still playing in India?
I have no idea.
I had high hopes for that kid, man. Funny how you got that nickname. Cuauhtemoc Blanco basically said that if he wasn't playing football, he'd be selling paletas on the street.
Yeah, Chivas had their home match of the season. They brought out this giant horn and brought back Bofo, only for them to lose 2-1 to Toluca. And it's back to obscurity, guys. It's back to realism for Chivas. It only took 3 matches. We're at the 8th in the league. And you have teams like Tigres who are still at the top, undefeated. They did tie to Xolos. And we actually had some action today. Atlas and Santos tied 2-2. I know it's too early to call things, but so far, who do you guys like?
I think I have to give credit to Pastor here. He had been pumping Pumas.
Yeah, they had a 4-1 victory over Leon. Juan Dineno. I don't know. Pumas is crazy, bro. They have these crazy extreme like runs.
No, the fans didn't even want the coach, and now they're playing some of the best.
Pachuca though haven't taken their foot off the gas. I think they have a chance of repeating, to be honest. And I do wonder what's going to happen if Almada does take the job. Like, will he still be able to coach Pachuca, or will he have to leave? Like, what's the protocol here?
It's a full time job for him. If he goes to the national team, man, he's not going to coach Pachuca.
So the word around the horn that's being said is that they want for him to end the torneo and then he can go. But Federacion is hot for somebody right now. So what I've heard, right? I listen to a lot of stuff and read a lot, is that they tapped Jimmy for interim and he was like, nah, fuck that noise.
Who?
Everything or nothing.
Who for interim?
Jimmy Lozano? That's his
Wait,
name.
Oh,
but
Jimmy.
who who petitioned Jimmy for it? That's so dumb. Like what?
As an interim? Exactly. So he was like, no, put respect on my name.
Isn't
Everything
he?
or nothing.
Isn't he still coaching?
I don't think so. He got fired last season and he hasn't been rehired.
I thought he
Yeah,
was
he
at.
doesn't have
Fired
a
from
job.
Necaxa?
Mm-hmm.
Oh damn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
Liini.
Lilini's has
Yeah,
Necaxa
Liini's
right now.
Necaxa.
Which, who? Let's not even get started about la sobada de concha que le dieron a Cruz Azul last week.
Yeah.
Like, that was
Hey,
the
but you
bullshit of a
know the
fucking
thing
match.
though. I mean, I think Jimmy needs to calm down and chill out because he got fired from Necaxa and then he was close with Pumas and they went with Rafa Puente, who hasn't had a job in the longest. So if you lost the
You don't
Pumas
even have
job
to
to
look at his
Rafa
club
Puente,
career. You have to look at what he's done at the youth level with the national team. And I mean, they got the bronze in the Olympics, but at the same time, they were eliminated from what was it? What were they eliminated from? It was just like they didn't even qualify to the next
They didn't
Olympics.
qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying if I get fired from Necaxa, I lose a Pumas job to Rafa Puente Jr., who no one takes serious. They seem like the same level as Leaño, and they offer me the national team, even if it's just for 3 games, just for a short stint. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna try to have that team play the best possible, so some club will come and give me a chance. I'm gonna look as a chance to secure another job in the future.
Yeah. At the same time, though, it's like you want the job permanently, and they're, it's kind of like an insult for them to just like dangle it in front of you.
I don't know. I mean, you're looking at the other guy you're competing against has taken his team to back-to-back finals and won one of them.
I have a question, guys. What are we gonna do without now that Zendejas and Brandon Vasquez have played for the U.S. national team? How are we gonna live? How are we gonna be able to continue as a country now that they have chosen the United States?
Oil,
Let them.
hold me.
Who are those bums? Who are they?
Zendejas plays for America. Brandon Vasquez was rumored with Chivas twice, but Pelas didn't want to pay the money.
And then they offered 7 million.
I know, but like Mexican soccer right now is in a recession. When we're not in a recession, where we're not in terrible form, do you even see those guys being part of a team? No. I mean, are we literally losing on something crazy? No, they're regular average players.
No, we talked about that. I think it was last week where there hasn't been any Chicano that went to the U.S. national team, and we live to regret it.
I would have liked to see Brandon Vasquez just because we don't really have that many strikers right now, and he's a big boy. He's 6'2", so it would have been interesting just to see him. But at the same time, yeah, they ended up losing to Serbia.
Do you know who's their coach?
Isn't it still Berhalter?
No, they had somebody. I can't remember who it was, but somebody else was taking over the
Oh,
like a
did he
friendly
get
or two.
fired?
No, it just his contract was over. It just it wasn't hasn't
Yeah,
been extended.
Anthony Hudson, whoever the fuck
That
that
dude got
is.
booted by a soccer mom, dude. That's some shit.
By a Karen, dog.
Damn, I thought he did a good job. I think, and it's funny because I thought the U.S. fans they remind me of Mexicans when, when they see their team and they think they could do better and they putting it all on the coach. Not, and it's kind of like I was like, where have I seen this before? But but I think like with him, they what do you mean? They actually hit all the all the goals they needed qualify again and to win some tournaments, and he got the 3 wins over Mex. Um, so it kind of it's kind of like a trip to see how things have changed for them for and even for their fans because before that those 3 wins would have had him in Hall of Fame.
yeah. No, I wanted to go back to Jimmy Lozano's interim. I don't want to get into the whole interim thing again because again, it ends up being a bunch of drama, right? Like, okay, say it was Almada, Jimmy Lozano coached 3 games, and then Almada can take over, and guess what? It's time to play the Gold Cup. All of a sudden, you're hearing this, oh, está obligado de ganar, right? And he hasn't had a chance to freaking work with the team. At the end of the day, whoever they hire needs to take over the job immediately, right? Start working, scouting the players,
Who
seeing who he's going to add to his base, right?
There's
who
a
was the
game. There's a
waiting
Nations League game.
What's that?
There's a Nations League game I think coming up against Jamaica. I think in March.
Yep.
when they last time they did interim when they put
So,
Chucho and he coached
so
like 3 games. Who
yeah,
was the coach that was on the sidelines waiting, dude? I can't remember.
that's
It was
where they had that
Sven,
coaching
wasn't
carousel.
it?
They had.
I wouldn't
When
say it's a bad thing him waiting for Almada to finish the tournament because you say you got to be scouting players. It's not like there's many players outside of Mexico to scout. And two, if you're coaching actively in Liga MX every weekend, you're seeing other teams on the field. And his
that guy's been
team, it's
working
not
there
like
for
as
years,
big
though.
as he has like 8 Mexicans starting. And there's nothing coming up in these first 6 months with Selección that's imperative.
Nah, that whole thing isn't.
When the when
Bro,
you're
there's
basically.
nothing coming up with Selección in the next 4 years that is imperative.
I
Like, we
know,
got
but
time. We can fix
But I
this
mean, if he's
and get
your
a.
ideal guy, I mean, what's it
hold on.
matter if he takes over in May?
Well,
Like, what is he going to change so dramatically in the next 4 months to set him up for huge success? I mean, it's the game is about moment. ¿Quién está en el mejor momento? Like, the
here's the
players that are in mejor momento right now, majority of them might not even be around in 2026. Like, as far as the older ones.
when the league and just soccer in general in Mexico is played with the optics of conflicts of interest. Almeida should not even be around the club scene anymore. If you're going to hire him, and let him be just the national team manager, because this whole jumping back and forth between club, because now you're going to give the press the ammunition to criticize. Is he playing favoritism to Grupo Pachuca? Is he playing favoritism? He says no. He just needs to dedicate. It's just because sometimes optics matter. You know, so I agree. I get it. There's I think Mexico. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Mexico has a they have a game. I think what is in Jamaica Nations League in March. Just just get them on board, and get them on board, and just start working with the national team.
Well, and also, Ron, imagine if he coaches the season, ends up like eighth on the table, the type of criticism he's going to take
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. That's another point. That's another point. I mean, that was one of the criticisms back in 03, 02, 03 with La Volpe, and because in retrospect he should have just forgotten about Toluca. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think Piojo is going to be the coach, whether I like it or not. I think
Nah,
that
don't
guy's
put
going
that
to be
on
the
the
coach.
universe, dog. Don't do that to me.
Nah, I mean, I mean, it's all up there. Like, look at the guy they put as director of the national teams. I can't even remember how to pronounce his name, but he did terrible at Querétaro. He did terrible at Pumas, and now you put him as the director of the national team. And then the guy who was there before him, Ordiales, now they've made him take a step down. So ideally, that's one of the guy who has a big influence on the coach, and it just seems to the people making the
Nah, but they
decisions
don't.
behind the scenes. It just seems like they already have their people lined up. It doesn't seem like a serious project. It looks like it's politics.
I think it's a serious project. They just don't take those positions as serious. They're sort of like,
What?
you
What did
know,
you just
you
say? It's serious, but they don't take it serious.
the project is serious, but then it's like it's sort of like the dude behind the curtain, right? So we're not really seeing the main movers and shakers. You're seeing some of these other dudes that are in the forefront,
Mm.
and a lot of times they're not really making
They're
the
not.
moves. They're just announcing them. You know what I mean? So it's like they could put whoever as president of selecciones, but the main people already have the manager selected. So this guy's just gonna announce him, but he's not really gonna be the one selecting him.
Yeah, he
That's
doesn't
why it's
have.
not a serious project then. Because on the opposite end, you could put someone like Bielsa, who as like the director of that, and he is going to have an influence. He's not just there to be face and just make the announcement and make it look pretty. No, he actually has an influence, and it's a whole project that he's actually a part of. So that's why I mean it's not a serious project, because they're putting in people that are willing to bend over and just be the face. But Televisa and whoever else is making all the decisions, and here announce it.
Oh yeah, that's just how
So
it
it's
is
not a
in
serious
Mex.
project then.
And actually, that kind of brings up something, guys, and that's on our chat. I posted a video. It was an interview with Almada with Hercules Gomez, and I can't remember the other guy's name, right? And it talks about how he had met with what's his name? Uh, what's the name of the guy, the head of Pachuca,
Jesus Martinez.
Jesus Martinez, and somebody else, and when he had talked about, he had asked Almada had asked about Bielsa, and I guess supposedly Jesus had said something about how Bielsa, they wanted to interview him for a director deportivo position instead of coach. So I don't know how much of that is true, but it's on that interview on the in the chat.
Oh,
I'll see if I
I need to see it. I need
yeah
to see it.
if,
But
if
look,
I
look,
if I can go back to it, I can put it on the little chat here and see if for everybody else
I'll,
to see.
I'll tell you guys why I'm not like worried, because it's basically when you see the commission and they put like Chivas and you have Santos and Tijuana, and yeah, it looks like you know it just doesn't seem very motivating. But Santos is really Grupo Orlegui, and then you have America. So we really can't deny those two teams have been doing they've been doing things good with their clubs. So like especially even with youth, if you want to see how much youth America has debuted and even sent abroad. Same with Grupo Pachuca, Grupo Orlegui with Santos. So if you were about youth, I'm pretty sure they have that one down. And then as far as selección, I just I don't think they could really like screw it up too much. I think we just blow over proportion some of the stuff that happened, like missing out on the Olympics. It's a game that came down to penalty kicks. It's not like Mex win and they were embarrassed on the field or they were getting washed. For
But
the most part, they dominated all their games. And
Joel,
yeah,
it isn't a huge crisis. Forget going out, 3 and out. Forget that. Look, everything from top to bottom. You're missing out, not qualifying to tournaments, Olympics, the under 20s, the under
but
17s.
those two were the same. Let's keep
So,
that in mind. They
so,
were
but
they were like a double package deal.
now,
Where it was
granted,
like,
I understand that in the grand scheme of things, the Gold Cup and the Nations League is just a bullshit tournament. But still, when you lose to the U.S., you give the press so much goddamn ammunition to use against you. Okay, and then not to mention, boom, we used to think, well, not think, we knew the reason that Mexico was basically getting the shaft, not being able to participate in Copa America and Copa Sudamericana is because Jack Warner and Chuck Blazer basically made it impossible. You know, for basically 2 decades, finally able to get rid of those assholes, and then next thing you know, you're basically bending the knee to fucking Canada and the U.S. I mean, really, you're bending the knee, and you're basically giving preference to bullshit tournaments like Leagues Cup and Campeones Cup and Nations League and all that type of stuff. No, dude, you had the goddamn obstacles out of the way. You got Blazer out of there. You got Warner out of there. It should be Copa America and it should be Copa Libertadores, and that's it. End of discussion. That's the only way you're able to basically gauge where the hell you stand in world soccer and international soccer.
The money's too good though, man.
yeah, there you go.
No,
You chose
but
money.
but no. But the money could be better going back to South America because remember the stock of Mexican soccer went. There was an article in La Jornada that I posted years ago. Okay, basically when Mexico basically started participating in Copa America and Copa Libertadores in '93, '98, the amount of money that started rolling into soccer was just it went through the roof. And even remember, even what's his name? What's his name? Santander, Grupo Santander. They even flat out said it. The only reason we decided to even sponsor the Copa Libertadores was because of the Mexican market,
Yeah.
the Mexican fan.
But don't you think they're generating more money here in the States with all the
I do.
Molero tournaments
Yes,
and
yes,
You
I
remember?
do.
You remember how much they? You remember like Fox Sports, like their interliga games
yeah,
used to be some of their highest, their
attended.
highest, yeah, viewers, like
Yeah.
the ratings.
But those were done in the
People
States.
want. No, it doesn't matter. The Mexicans in Mexico, the Mexican Americans in the U.S., they would much rather see Mexico play or Mexican teams play against River Plate,
No, of
Boca
course they are.
Juniors, Santos,
But
rather than
I don't
Austin.
know. I don't
Austin.
know if Conmebol can compete with the kind of money that the U.S. can make us.
No, they can't. They
Yeah,
can't. They're
but it
broke.
doesn't have to be one or the other. You can do both. I mean,
I
hate
don't
him
think
or
you can
not,
do
it's
both
like
because they're trying to grow the
No, they
league
can't.
here.
no,
Exactly.
it's like what Tata said.
It's
I
like
mean, he came out and said in his last
you can't
interview.
you can't like you can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
I don't
The-
know.
Yeah. No,
It's
they
just too much
ultimately, they
emphasis
You
on the
ultimately,
like
money because we're acting
that was
like
the reason why we're hosting the World Cup in 2026 is
yeah.
because we agreed that we were gonna try and get these guys back to like get on our level, right? Help develop Canada and the United States Like that was part of like the pitch to FIFA as to like why the World Cup was gonna come this way. And you can't do
It,
that and then go like, oh, we're gonna make a side deal with Comebol, by the way.
we're
But
gonna
you
send
did
you
in
the
the
scrub
past, though.
teams.
You had
No, but it
teams
was
playing in
different in the past.
Libertadores, and you had
Yep.
But
Mexico
we
playing in
weren't
Copa
in,
America,
we
and then
weren't
you
trying to
also
get
had that
into a
one
World
thing.
Cup host. It's
But you
different
had
now.
Superliga. You also had that whole Superliga thing. You can
I
do
know, and
both. I don't remember who said it, but someone said that, and it was a directivo. He said that when they play a game in the U.S., that they make 7 times the money than they would if they hosted in Mexico. Okay, great. Let's not act like the Federación is bleeding for money. They have so much money and they're making so much money that they could afford to take a
Clearly not
quote
enough.
unquote loss here and there and have more tournaments out abroad, whether it's playing in South America or wherever the case. If they were
it's
able to
easy
do
to say that when it's
Superliga
not our
and a
money.
bunch of BS tournaments with the MLS and still do Libertadores and everything, they can find a way. But it's
Look,
like Tata came out and said in that interview, it's all emphasis on business and very low emphasis on the
look, man,
deportivo.
we're not gonna
And he said, I got paid for that. He's like, because of that emphasis on the money, I got paid of it and I took advantage of it. But at the same time, they got to bring up the deportivo stuff up
dude,
too.
they don't care about our performances, man. All they care about is how much money we can make them. And
No, and I
unfortunately,
know that, and
and
I
Well,
agree, but we can't say
unfortunately,
that you
the
can't do
World Cup,
both.
we already qualified for the next World Cup, so they can continue to fuck off for the next 4 years. Like,
That's true.
like I don't think you understand like how bad this is. Like the only way we're gonna have a wake up call and they might do something about this is if we don't qualify to the World Cup, and that's not gonna happen until 8 years from now. That won't even be a possibility. So this train wreck is gonna continue for the next 4 years, man. This is gonna
The
be
crazy train,
they're
dude.
they're literally
So
gonna try and gouge as much money and generate as much money as they can for the next 4 years with all these bullshit tournaments with Canada and United States. Like this is gonna continue, bro. They're gonna try and milk this for as much as they can, and they're not gonna care about the end result and how Mexico performs and if they're gonna lose all their titles to you, dude. They don't care about any of that. All they care
All right,
about
well,
is,
now you guys are confusing me because I said it wasn't a serious project, and y'all said it was. Now you're saying it's not.
I said,
well,
I
I
said it's
just
a
I
serious.
want to bring up this point. If we're talking money, there's some interesting things that happen with money and revolving Copa Libertadores and all that fun stuff. Just recently, Paramount Plus secured the broadcasting rights within the U.S. for a huge amount. It was like, hold on, let
for
me pull it up.
Libertadores.
For Libertadores.
No,
Yes,
no.
It's not gonna be on
yes, Copa
Fox anymore.
Libertadores. Nope, it is gonna be. It is Paramount recently secured from
Wow.
2023 to 2026 for 1.14 billion dollars.
No one's gonna watch that shit.
Oh, bro, I'm watching it. I watched the Argentinian league on Paramount.
Oh.
So es que llegaron en barco, you know.
Oh
Por
my
eso.
god.
Now, the other thing is their advertising package is up for sale in, I believe, either 2025 or 2026 is around there. And that is typically when Mexican advertisers can start bidding in. And that is when we might get a leadway in. Money talks, gentlemen. As we all know, we just spent quite a bit of time talking about it. So that is when we might have our best chance of seeing our way back in.
I doubt it, man.
We have to come back. There's no other way. All that we ever talk about is coming back, right? Like, I wanted to talk about this today. Hey, the League's Cup, the schedules are out. Are you excited for a Chivas Cincinnati, a America, who,
I'll tell you
I don't
who
know,
is
Caesars
excited.
Picks?
I'll tell you who is excited. All the Mexicans that live in those cities. Those people are excited.
Yep. Yes.
It's their opportunity to see their team play, and where they would never. Who the fuck? Like Chivas don't go to Cincinnati, bro. There's no market there.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go watch the Sounders Monterrey
There you go.
just to
You're
hate on
part of the
Monterrey, just to yell
problem.
at that motherfucker.
You're part of the problem.
You're
now,
part of the
Faith.
problem. We're all trying to pretend that we're not part of the problem, but we're
So money
when
talks.
they come to your city, you're like, I gotta go, and I gotta go buy a
Thanks for
jersey.
taking away Libertadores of DS.
You know,
That's what
I'm,
I'm
I'm
here
gonna
to
say this.
do.
I think a lot of these, because they're businessmen. The FMF, a lot of these guys, they're businessmen, and and that's what this is. It's a business first, and then sports, because you need money to keep the clubs and all that. And for the most part, they lose money. Even the big clubs in Europe lose money. That's why you have all these European clubs owned by foreigners now. Especially in the bigger leagues. And so yeah, of course, we see it as greedy, but it's also a necessity because it's like, unless like, yeah, we're not gonna give a fuck. It's not our money, so we're not gonna care if you know whatever Televisa or whoever is losing money to keep the team afloat. So yeah, that's why at the other side of the coin, they have to find ways to generate the most. And I do think it's a bit of a gamble that they're taking right now with helping promote a lot of the football here in the U.S. Because if it becomes, if the sports blows up here, then it's gonna generate a lot of money. It could easily overtake Europe, and I know for some people it might seem like not possible, but let's go back before Europe wasn't where the best football was played. You would have South American teams continually go over there and defeat their best teams. Even Mex teams will go over there. So it's just more recent where Europe's become like just the place to be. But all of that changes all the time. Like we're always seeing like one point Serie A was the best league, and then it was La Liga, and then EPL. So things are always changing, and in the possibility that if football did blow up here, then you could see it changing to that point where the best football will be played over here. We already have tournaments uh, where you would see all the best Euro teams coming here to the US to play. I mean, Chivas played that international something cup where they played Athletic Madrid and Porto, and so you would even see those teams coming over here to play. Um, and so I do think that that's a possibility for them, and that's why there's talk of having their own cup. And it could even be where it's like they could invite the best South American teams to play in the cup that is that is being made by US and Mex. So I think that's the other difference. Is like,
That,
go
that,
where something's already played or make your own.
that's a very good point, Holly, about Europe, taking over. I'd say in the last 30 years, because you're right, it wasn't always the case that the best football was being played in Europe.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Did I lose everybody? What the hell happened? Hold up, we're having technical difficulties. Sorry about that, folks. The live spaces on Twitter just disappeared. Yo,
Hello.
I don't know what happened. Freaking Elon Musk must have booted us out. He didn't like what we were talking about.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, my bad, guys. Not sure what happened there. Ron was on one too, man. He was just about getting started too. We do have Sergio Cruz on the YouTube chat says blaming fans is ridiculous. I think we touched a nerve there with Sergio.
Wait, what did he
Yo,
Oh,
say?
we were joking. We were joking about
yo, I'll
blaming
take the blame
fans.
because you know what? I'm gonna be yelling at the Rayados player that this is why they can't play in Libertadores because you can't hack it against the Sounders. So chingas a tu madre tú y todos los demás.
Looks like we're getting the squad back. I feel like it always does boil down to money, though, and why Mexico does the things that it does.
Yeah, I mean,
Yo,
at the
man,
end of
they're
the
a bunch
day,
of
you know what?
brokies.
It is the football team is their business, and they're going to treat it as such. And you know, it's a shame for us who are fans and look for constant improvement. But I think that's just kind of what it is at the end of the day, man.
Yeah, we have Ron back. Yo, sorry about that, Ron. Elon Musk must have kicked us out of the live.
Yeah. So what all did you hear?
You were just getting started.
Oh, hold on. Let me get my headphones.
Yeah, Elon Musk was mad. We were criticizing the playing in the U.S. Man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's about the money, but at the same time, the inflation that has caused amongst the league, I don't understand how it doesn't like worry some of like the smaller teams, and I guess that's why there's factions. For example, like a player going from Pachuca to Tigres. Well, he's Argentino, not him, but let's think of like a Mexican player going to like Tigres for like 10 million plus, or but that player outside of Mexico that is not valued even at that price. So how are the smaller teams not complaining?
It is a
But
very interesting and unique market, Liga MX.
yeah, I mean the only other example I can think of is EPL, like Harry Maguire going for like
80,
90 million, but no one outside of England would pay that price for him. But the reason the
but he's
EPL
English.
did, yeah, it's because it's English and it's their league. But no one in Italy, Germany, whatever would even pay 50 million for him.
Dude, they used to call Waza the White Pele.
Yeah, man, that league, yeah, it's the most entertaining league in the world, but it's definitely not the best.
I used to be a big Prem League fan. I still am. I used to think it was like the best league in the world. But I've been watching a lot more La Liga now that I have ESPN Plus, and yeah, I mean you got to see Madrid lose to Madrid today. Anyways, are you guys Team Almada or Team Piojo? Like, let's settle this. We need a head count. I need to know where you guys stand.
I'm waiting to see if Ron got his train of thought back.
What's that?
Did you get your train of thought back?
Yeah. No. So yeah. So what I was basically saying that that I have no doubt in my mind that had the U.S. At the turn of the 19th and early 20th century, would have taken the game of soccer as serious as it did the other sports. I have no doubt that either Mexico or the U.S. would or would have been like this area would have had at least a World Cup because like I said competition breeds competition. Uh, and I'm like I said, I'm happy that that the game of soccer has taken off the way it has. Especially since watching the '94 World Cup. But what I can't wrap my head around is that if if you're going to forego the South American tournaments and you're really going to be serious about forging the relationship and to a possible merger with with MLS, meaning the U.S. and Canada, then I don't see how you can grow the brand and the product to be premier when you're clapping and patting yourself on the back, selling your best product, your best young, and your prospects to basically third, fourth tier teams in Europe. You know, I can't wrap my head around that. So it's like you're either all in or you're not. So if you really want to forget about the Copa Libertadores and you really want to start basically chipping away at the mystique of the Champions League and European soccer, you don't you basically you need to stop you need to forget about them, and you need to basically work on yourself, and you do that by maintaining your best product at home domestically, and you bring in talent like how they do it, and that's to me is what really pisses me off is that they're all over the place, meaning both MLS and Liga MX in that respect.
Do you think that there are certain players though that are being held back by staying in Liga MX and need a bigger challenge and play with the best? Obviously, it's
You're
not.
gonna
It's
they're
not.
gonna have to you're gonna have to decide, do we want to become not just a big five, but do you really want, I mean, do you want to take the throne away from Europe?
I don't
You
think
know,
that'll ever happen.
it can't happen. It can't happen.
No,
I mean, anything in life can happen, but that's a big if.
no.
That's like
Keep in
The
mind,
I
reason
keep in,
don't
why
think
is
that's the
that's
goal. The
less than
goal
one
is
percent.
just to take money
what's that?
away from Europe.
What's that?
It's not taking the crown away. It's taking market share away from Europe.
but you
That's
can't.
what they want.
I mean, MLS has tried with like throwing money to lure players like superstars, and it doesn't work.
I mean, the schedule
This is
doesn't
the
even
this is a
help. It's
problem.
like
This is a problem when China
March
does
to
it.
That's a
November.
big one. The schedule.
This is the problem. This is the problem when China does it. When they try to throw money at this, when the Middle East try to throw money at this, you have to consider that they don't have something that we in the Americas have. We have that soccer culture. Okay.
Not in the states.
No, even in the states, to a certain degree, they have a lot of history. You know,
Have you seen the
they
American
just
Outlaws? That's not culture,
no,
bro.
no, 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 no. But like for example, like there's a good Twitter account, Ted something. The guy's always talking about promotion and relegation, but he always has little clip. He always has news clippings of basically soccer played in the yesteryears. Teams like Rangers and Celtics coming over to the U.S. to play, tournaments and stuff like that, and Madrid, and even teams from Mexico and stuff like that. So he's got a really good account. But what I'm saying, but forget about the U.S. I'm talking about Mexico. I'm talking about the Americas. We have a soccer culture.
Yeah, but
China doesn't.
yeah, but
China doesn't.
we're third
Middle
world
East doesn't.
countries, though.
What's that?
We're third world countries.
But we have a
China
good
has
market share.
money.
We have a good market share, and money's not gonna, and money alone is not gonna be able to buy you. Not gonna buy you the culture, nor the talent.
Yeah, and that's the
But
MLS. The
unfortunately,
US
our
has the
market share
dollar.
is
Really?
locked.
The US has
That's
the
it. It's
dollar, but
locked
they
within
don't
the
have the
U.S.
culture.
The U.S. has one of the best things. One of the most fascinating things in the history of the world is is basically mass media. You know,
Yeah,
so
but
I'm,
look
I'm,
at the
I'm
mass media how it reacted when the US got knocked out by the Netherlands in the World Cup. It was just
so
like everybody, when in the soccer culture, like when your team gets knocked out of a World Cup or whatever, it like for society, it almost feels like a terrible hangover, a terrible like heartbreak. Like just look how Argentina and everything, how they reacted, how they jumped on the team. US gets knocked out by Netherlands. It was like, okay, well we'll try next time. Everyone's pretty much a casual fan. The culture is not there.
I do agree that
it is
like we
well,
we, we
it is
have
there.
the look.
It
They
is there.
have they
It's
have
a
all the
Not
family
not
tools.
PG
not to
culture.
Argentina, obviously not to Argentina's level, but
It's
it's there.
look.
It's a
You don't
very
have.
casual culture
Can
though.
I just add something real quick? Like I do agree that the United States have all the tools at their disposal and like the amount of people to like really, if they wanted to, they could absolutely like take market share away from Europe. The problem is Americans are Americans, and if they're not the number one in their sport, they turn it off very quickly because it's a sense of pride and it's a sense of ego, and that's why they only care about American sports because they're the best at it.
But here's the
And in
thing:
the world of soccer, they're not. So
in many markets in the United States, soccer does better than hockey, than
yeah, but we're
basketball,
talking
than
like
baseball. You're
small.
not you're not gonna you're not gonna touch the NFL anytime soon.
No one's
But I
touching the
guarantee
NFL.
you're not gonna touch the NFL anytime
And you're
soon.
not going to
But
be
what
able
you
to even get a little bit of that passion I see from NFL fans. You're not going to see that in the States, bro. You see it in
Sir, I live
LAFC.
in a major market, and you don't see that with the Kraken. You don't see it with the Mariners. You don't see it with versus the Seahawks. There's always less people at the Sounders games, and the tickets are way cheaper.
And it's
It's just
because
not
it's
there.
not good. Like
The schedule doesn't fit it,
yeah.
right? It's a niche sport.
it's not
We
an e-sport.
The
It's not an
MLS
e-sport anymore.
schedule caters to the
It's not.
NFL. It caters to the bigger sports in the US. I live in a major market. I talk to the people who have season tickets. I know the people who vote, but it's just not there yet. It's growing,
You're talking about the
and this
market
city
where
has
during
it.
the World Cup final they show some Cowboys ad during the World Cup final.
They
You
did.
can't tell me the culture is there. It's not
It
there.
is.
The culture is there, but it's not there to the level you think it is. It's very casual,
You're
very
you're
laid
wanting to
back.
compare it to Argentina. Don't.
No, not. I'm not comparing it to Argentina. I'm just comparing
You
it
can just
to
compare
the cultures and the other sports in the U.S.
dude, people rather
It's
watch golf than soccer.
it's not at the yeah, it's not at hockey. Yeah, might there be some cities where their hockey team might get more support than the hockey team, whatever. Yeah, but
Who
overall,
which
NHL,
federation?
NBA, NFL, MLB are still above soccer. Soccer is like, yeah, it's cool. My kids play soccer. It's not that violent. It's like whatever. It's easy. Like it's nice. It's casual. It's like what the millennial parents love, but it's just a nice casual thing to watch your kids play. It's friendly. But as far as like the culture, no. And it's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a family environment. It's what Liga MX lacks. There's stadiums in Liga MX where you can't attend
You
as a
can't bring your
family.
family.
And here in the MLS, you can go to any stadium as a family and just enjoy the game as a family, as a casual fan, and think it's cool. That's not a bad thing, but it's just
MLS
not the level that you think it is.
MLS attendance is third only behind NFL and Major League. It's already surpassed NBA and it already surpassed NHL on average. Okay, and even
I
I
don't
would venture
believe
to say
that.
it's true.
On average, but how many of
Yeah,
those
I don't believe that, dude.
markets have a soccer team?
New England Revolution get like
That's the
five fans a
difference.
game, bro.
Go to the Bruins, it's packed every single time because I also lived on that in that
So
city.
so so
Packed every single time.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing. Aside that, it's already third behind. Like I
Go
said,
to
only behind
Fenway.
NFL. Well, it's only behind what do you call it? We're talking about not instances but averages. Okay, obviously the Yankees and the Yankees and the and what do you call it? And Boston. That's an anomaly because those guys are fanatic about their teams. Okay, but what I'm saying is, on average, MLS attendance is better than is third. Is third only behind NFL and MLB. But when you also consider the amount of infrastructure that has been built since '94, okay, to that sport, and also the federation pays more to FIFA for the rights of the World Cup than any other federation in the world. I mean, the last time I didn't even look at the ones from ES. What is it from Fox and what was it, Fox and Telemundo or NBC? But
Mhm.
like I think the last one that I looked at was when basically when Univision and ABC ESPN had it. I mean, those guys paid. I think like it was ahead above. What was it? I think it was like close to basically $500 million.
Damn.
For both the U.S. rights and obviously Univision for the Spanish rights. You know, so it's there. It's not a spectator. It's not, what do you call it? It's not a social. Soccer isn't a social event anymore. You know what I mean? You're just there to see. Hey, what happens? I mean, like the U.S. got U.S. The U.S. recently got rugby, the World Cup, right? rugby is, the Rugby World Cup when it was going to come to the U.S. It's basically going to be kind of like a social event. Oh, okay, let's see what's going on here. You know, that was soccer basically 30 years ago, 40 years ago in the U.S. It was basically, oh, okay, let's see what's going on here. But no, it's not. It already has its culture. Like I said, it's nowhere near Mexico. It's nowhere obviously near like the English or I'm sorry, in England or like in Mexico or Argentina or Brazil. Obviously, it's not that. I don't know if it'll ever get to that. You know.
The teams are just too
But
young.
yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's teams that are fairly young. Um, even in Europe that like for example, PSG, what they were around. They're
70s.
relatively new team. Exactly. Santos, 1988. In or Mexico Santos, not the Santos from Brazil.
RB Leipzig. They're like really young.
Yeah.
But for the
But
most part,
but
it's
what
like
but that's what I was like going back to what Kodaso was asking of me. That is what my problem is, and what I can't wrap my head around with is that you know if you're not going to be serious about growing this into the premier market of soccer, along with the U.S. Because honestly, if the U.S. really wanted to basically you know be the premier location for soccer, kind of like what Europe, well, Europe, but mostly the big four, great, I'm on board. Let's keep all our talent here. Let's make our football better than theirs, or at least equal to theirs. But when you're selling Pepe, when fans are patting themselves on the back, oh man, we just sold Pepe, or we just sold what's Fulano de Tal, or we just sold him to fucking Magdeburg and Division 2 Bundesliga. Really? That's what we're going for? No. If that's the case, you know what? I'm on my own. You're on your own. I, See you, man. I'll see you when I see you. I'd rather play in Copa Libertadores. I'd rather be in Copa America. So that's my take on that.
got a long way to go.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. I mean, just look at the cup that they have in England going right now. Aston Villa got knocked out by a fourth division team. In third division right now, you have like Derby County and I think Bolton Wanderers, and the
Yeah.
stadiums are packed like with fifty
Yeah.
thousand people for a third division game in England.
I mean, look
So
what
like for
Ryan Reynolds did with
And,
Wrexham.
and 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 that's nothing new, man. That's their culture. That's English
That's what
culture.
I'm saying. For you to be able to take that away, yeah, money wise, revenue, yeah, could you do all
But
those
but
things? Sure,
but
you
we're
could
not.
definitely like take those things away. But as far as like from the culture, the romanticism behind it, it's gonna be very hard to compete with players wanting to come to the United States to play from March to November when they're missing out like on Champions League and the essence and the beauty of the game.
That English culture that goes back, shit, and almost basically
But
almost
not
like
just English
2000
culture, the whole European game, Champions League alone. Do I want to watch some
Champions
top
League,
MLS
Champions
team play some top
Champions.
Mexican team? Sure, but I'm not gonna choose it over, like Madrid versus I don't know Manchester City, PSG, Bayern, you name it, because that is the elite of the
And
elite. That is the top 1%.
That's another thing
and I wouldn't
too.
even go as far as
Americans,
to say European culture.
um, uh,
It's just football culture because when we're competing in Libertadores, we're competing against the best of the best in our region, and we wanted to win, and that was our drive to win. So without it, we don't have it here, right? And the schedule doesn't give you that. So therefore, you're in this bubble, right? If you play MLS, you're comfortable, you're getting paid, but you don't have it. Now with Mexico, we kind of in that same bubble, and that's why we grew stagnant. So therefore, what can we do? We're not going to join the other one, at least not for a while, because money won't let us do it. So let's picar piedra and try to build our own.
I mean, the potential's there. I mean, outside of the top five leagues, if MLS, Liga MX, if they combine, don't combine, MLS has all the potential to be considered the top league outside of Europe. I just don't think that you're going to be able to take that away just because of how they're so interconnected, especially with the European tournaments. What can the MLS do to put themselves above Bundesliga, League One, La Liga, Serie A? What can they offer?
You're seeing it wrong. You're seeing it wrong though. That's not how they're gonna compete for it. It's the mark. It's the economy. So if economy crashes or they're no longer getting the money, then the players will have to go where the money is. Just like Ron was talking about those South Americans, why they go, a lot of them why they go to Europe, not because they want to play in Europe, because that's where the money's at.
Yeah,
And
but
so we're already seeing all these Euro teams. They're owned by foreigners. You think their
I'm
fans want
yeah,
what happened?
I'm old enough to remember when most of the teams in South America were we're still domestic based. Only you only had a couple of them that were playing abroad, you know, uh, and stuff like that. Like that's why I'm saying that you know Europe was able to basically really attract the South American, or just not the South American, but just in general, like the players around the world, the best of the best from around the world. Really post '90s, you
Yeah,
know.
the Bosman ruling.
The fall of the fall of the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Bosman ruling, that basically just really Europe's
Yeah,
infrastructure really took off. Um, but like I said, I don't think it's a far fetched idea because like I said, I know that just throwing money at it is not gonna do it because obviously you have Middle Easterners, you have Chinese tycoons that are pouring tons and tons and tons of money into something that unfortunately they don't have the culture for. They don't have that soccer culture that we have in the Americas.
no,
You know,
but Ron, my take is eventually the oil money and all these other foreign investors are gonna pull out of Europe. Then
I
they're
think
gonna
so
be
too.
pretty effed. Then they're
I
gonna
mean,
be pretty effed. And
well,
I mean, look what's happening in Italy. How they had what Parma was selling for $1.
yeah,
Milan had to sell like what 50% to some Chinese dude, and you've seen it all across. So they're very dependent right now on foreign investment. And if
well,
that ever leaves, which it could happen for whatever reasons, and
but
not
not to get into. I mean, not to get into political, the discussions here, but just in many countries in the U.S., what's perceived right now as the movement of Europe is for Europeans is taking hold in many European countries. And like for example, the backlash that had just happened a couple of weeks ago when Madrid hosted for the first time in their entire history a starting lineup without one Spanish player. That's raising alarms over there.
yeah.
You know, I mean, one of the things that I agreed with Blatter. I mean, I didn't agree with him on too many things, but one of the things that I personally agreed with Blatter was that hey, wait a minute, he had the what is it, the 6-5 rule, where he wanted basically something similar to what we've had in Mexico since since the 40s, where they had that presidential decree where you had to play, you had to line up X amount of domestic players. Um, but yeah, I mean that's I personally think that Europe has shot themselves in the foot because was because they basically bring in all these foreign tycoons, basically an essential billionaires club, and they're basically just they're basically just tearing away the fabric of these clubs, their history and stuff like that, by making it too much, it's globalized too much. And I mean, I'm not saying that. I mean, one of the things that I love about soccer is the whole international aspect, but I think a little it's gone too much.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
look at the age we live in. Everything's globalized. I mean, you guys talking about like if the collapse of the economy if it falls out. Come on, if there's a collapse of the economy where all Europe's collapsing, the U.S. is gonna be right there with them. I
No,
mean,
not
everything is
exactly.
so interconnected.
To a certain degree, yes. To a certain degree, I do agree with you on that. But
Yeah,
I,
but I didn't say Europe had to collapse. I said the foreign investors start pulling out for other reasons.
yeah,
You know, and then that leaves Europe that they're not gonna have that money to be making all of those 100 million transfers, 120 million transfer fees. They're gonna go back to what it used to be, and you would see even Liga MX outbidding European team for players.
uh,
I mean, I don't know because it's
not
like
to go
all
on,
your money is like
not to,
used like
but
throughout the
not to,
tournament now.
yeah, yeah, not to go off on a tangent. But that actually was talking to a friend about this a couple months back. That you know, those foreign owners, that come in with that, that those petrodollars and stuff like that. Once the whole dependence on fossil fuels occurs, because eventually it's going to happen. Eventually, sooner or later, it's going to happen. What's going to happen with those petrodollars? You know what I mean? And I do think that something, what you're trying to get to, Joel, is going
Yeah,
to happen. That it's gonna dry up, and there's going to be less money. There's going to be less money from foreigners, and then you're like you said, you're not going to have those. Like, I mean, think about it. Just the amount of money that they paid for Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an anomaly. That's not sustainable. You know, the amount of money that they're paying, just around the world. I mean, and especially just
and,
like the Chinese, and especially the Chinese and the Middle Easterners with those petrodollars. It just
but yeah,
it's gonna
and
have to collapse sooner rather
and
than later.
we just saw with Barcelona how much in debt they were
Oh yeah,
for just during the whole Messi thing, where they had to, what, didn't he leave for free?
Yeah.
shit, yeah.
They couldn't like legally
Well,
extend his contract or something.
well, we're having the whole financial talk. What happens when viewership shifts? Like that's the main reason why sponsorships would leave. Not necessarily the business goes bankrupt, but hey, you're no longer sustaining this viewership. We just said back in the day, Serie A used to be the top of
Yeah,
the table. Now it's Premiere, so everyone's jumping ship. My advertising is going to be watched more in Premiere, so I'm going to pull from here and shift it over there. Now Cristiano and how much they paid, yeah, that's petrol money. That's what happens there. But realistically, who's watching that league? How do I
Nobody.
even watch that league? Do you guys know how to watch it? Because fuck if I
No,
know.
I don't
no.
think they
I'm
care.
pretty sure
I don't think they care.
Bien.
Being
And in that regard, I think here it's more they're spending that money knowing that they're not going to make it back, but it's basically keeping up for the Joneses. You know what I mean?
that's
It's
hey,
like
that's
they're
like
trying
those
they're trying to establish international recognition. Hey, look at us.
to me, Ron, is more like those really rich people that for their kid's birthday they end up bringing in some
Spend a
like
million
some
dollars to have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
they, they they bring some
theme,
rock band, some known rock band to play in their
Hey,
backyard.
hey, hey, hey,
like
now.
a
Bud
happy
makes
birthday
us fucking
or
slap, okay?
barely past the third grade. Fucking Billy, he got it. Jaime got the reference. Billy Madison.
Yes.
But so all right. So now let's get off that tangent. What was the question before? Codazo wanted my input or my take on this. You wanted the
Um
oh you want
yeah, we got to wrap this
what,
up, so I kind of just wanted
Team
to
Piojo
know
or Team Almada?
what team you're on. Team
Oh
Almada, Team
yeah,
Piojo.
I I'm Team Piojo, and I gave my reason earlier because I'm not sure how Almada will do. Uh, I don't know if he'll be able to handle the pressure of just the shit show that that the national team, brings at you.
Don't you think Piojo would have more pressure though, because of his
I
recent
know that. I
results?
know he'll have more pressure, and I know he'll have more critics. I know
I
that
mean,
for a fact.
Almada's coming off a championship winning team. If he leaves now, he actually has, that like credibility. Well, Piojo has the results with America, Tigres, how he left the national team. If anything, I feel like he would have more pressure. And like someone mentioned, he doesn't have the best anger management.
Piojo, throughout his career, he has had many teams play very well. Obviously, there's always highs and there's always ups and downs. But and I've said this before, I didn't even want Piojo when he came to America. I didn't want him, but you know he he did what he was supposed to do, and he shut up a lot of people. You know, personally, I mean, I thought he had the team playing well. I mean, even when they got eliminated by Cruz Azul and then Chivas and stuff like that, and they fired him for that, which they shouldn't have. But it is what it is. That's really, like I said, Almada in a way kind of. You remember Ojitos Mesa? How he had Toluca playing in the late
I don't.
'90s and
Oh
that.
I don't think
man,
it's gonna happen though, because
No,
Toluca and esa. Oof.
but no, but
Toluca.
what I'm saying is, I see a similarity in that sense where
I see
I
what you
Toluca,
don't
mean.
though, because Toluca was full of
Toluca.
foreigners then, and
No,
they
no,
weren't
no,
young.
no,
No,
no, no.
no, it wasn't.
What I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to get is that Ojitos Mesa, he was able to do well in Toluca and stuff like that. But Toluca, believe it or not, it's not a big market. In fact, even Cardoso used to say that in reality, most Toluca fans are America fans. They're only Toluca fans when we're doing well. He's gone on record to say that. So, but what I'm saying is that Ojitos Mesa basically was doing really well in the league, and he got the national team. But coaching Toluca and then coaching a team that has a lot of media attention, like the national team, he was never able to make that adjustment. You know, and I think that's where I give Piojo the advantage because he has that experience both with America and the national team. Where Almada, I remember, I don't remember the player's name from Pachuca, but he used to say that Pachuca, a player from the Pachuca could ride his bicycle from home to the stadium and not get noticed. So, take that for what you will.
Damn.
Take that for what you will.
That's a good life right there, man.
What's it? Yeah. So I mean, literally, I need to find that out. I need to find that one because I remember when I
No
read that,
wonder
I was
trophies.
cracked.
No wonder trophies is doing good over there. No one see him leaving the Oxxo with two caguamas, dude. That,
Yeah,
that would be front page in Guadalajara, right? Maybe a
I
whole
want to.
case of pomos and nobody noticed.
I want to say it was Carlos Calderon, the great Mexican soccer historian. I think he published one of those anecdotes from Pachuca, where this was when Pachuca was still in the second division in the early '90s. But there was like this, like he was, I don't remember the name of the player, but he was local star second division, and he was known for bringing prostitutes to his cheering section. You know, imagine. But I'm just saying,
Oh, damn. They was
but
living the dream.
imagine a player from like Cruz Azul or America doing that. You know, that's kind of like my point is like when you're coaching Atlas, when you're coaching Puebla, when you're coaching Pachuca, and even to a certain extent the Monterrey teams. There's just a lot less pressure.
Yeah, but
You know.
I mean, he's won back-to-back titles, bro. Or
No,
not,
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm
not
not taking. I'm
back-to-back,
not
but
taking.
he's doing well.
I'm not taking that away from him. His teams are played well. Are playing well. No dispute for me on that. Like I said, the only thing that I can think of that may hurt him is you're basically going from, like you said, you're being able to ride your bike, you know, to the stadium and not get noticed like Cuauhtemoc Blanco when they asked like, "What do you miss most?" I miss not being able to take the subway. You know, it's just one of those things. It's just you're in the hurricane, man. You're in the eye of the hurricane when you coach when you're that
He's a big boy. He can handle it.
Yeah, you gotta
yeah
look at his personality. I mean, he looks pretty calm. Like, look at Tata. Uh, the pressure was on him like crazy the last 2 years, but rarely
Tata's a
did he ever like.
bum.
But that's the thing. Rarely did he step out of
Eres
line
un estúpido.
and start arguing with the media, start throwing fits or anything. It also comes down to your personality. Might it affect you? Yeah, you saw Tata. He looks like 20 years older now that he left than when he came in 4 years ago. So yeah, sure the pressure got to him, but it also depends how you handle it.
yeah.
You can make the argument that
He
you're
was also
making is that that pressure
stubborn.
is going to be there, and Piojo won't express it externally well.
So,
Hasta
Habibi,
que te mete un
No,
chingazo.
I agree with you on that. It's a delicate situation to be in when you have half the country and more than half the press either for you or against you. You know, it's a it's a tough it's a tough position and Javier Aguirre has talked about being in the hot seat compared to like being in Spain and being in Mexico. Mexico's worse.
mm-hmm. Don Al Pastor, Team Piojo or Team Almada?
And man, life has always shown you don't go back to where once you were happy, expecting to have the same type of happiness. As Cristiano with Manchester United, as anyone, man, you're never gonna get those original results. And the casual fan wants Piojo back because how he celebrates the goals, how he made him feel in 2014 World Cup, because he saved the selección from a fracaso when all he had to do was play New Zealand. Come on now, the pressure is gonna be there to like live up to that past. That something's not gonna go right, and it will be refreshing just to see a different face, someone who comes off as more professional, knowledgeable, calm-minded, and is actually using Mexican players. I mean, out of all the teams in the league, whether it's Rachuca and it's a little team nobody cares about, he's using Mexican players and he's beating top teams and he's back-to-back finals. He doesn't look like an argumentative guy. Yeah, the media might be on his ass, but he doesn't look like the guy who's going to explode and start arguing. If anything, his credibility will buy him some time. His credibility will buy him time till the first fracaso. What's considered the first fracaso? Losing early out in the Gold Cup or losing a final to the U.S. So when's the next Gold Cup? Next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gives him at least a year so he has a chance to have a quote unquote fracaso. I say go with a new fresh start.
They
Go
got
with a new
Nations League, though.
face. Go with the guy who most likely won't play all the politic games that Piojo and others might.
It's a political game whether you want to
Yeah, you
accept it or
have
not.
to.
You have to play the
It is.
game.
It
And that's
is.
why I say
For the
that
game
Piojo
plays
will be
you.
the coach because it is a political game. What I prefer doesn't mean that's what I think is going to happen. I already know Piojo is going to be the coach. That's written in the stars because it's a
Ah.
political game.
Don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you say that.
Well,
But keep
I'm
it.
gonna say,
But you said something that, and normally I would agree with you that normally you're not going to be able to catch lightning twice in a bottle. And but to Piojo's credit, something that no other coach for America was able to do was to basically win a title, then leave the club and then come back and win again. And obviously, America throughout its history has had a lot of good coaches. Piojo was the only one that was able to basically catch lightning in a bottle twice.
didn't he
So
break all the records?
he is. So he's like in terms of Piojo's already written his history with Club America. He's always going to be
The
up there with the greats.
Clásicos won and all that stuff.
Clásicos,
His
The Copa,
liguillas.
the Liga. Obviously losing. He won two leagues, but he also went to a couple other leagues where they lost. But I'm just saying that he was able to do that with America in a team that obviously is always in the hot seat, and you're always in the eye of the storm. So I don't know,
I don't know, man.
just
Well,
stop pay
here's one
that
more.
and just put that
Here,
in the back, in the warmer,
well, here's my argument for him. If we look at Mexico's World Cups from '94 up until the last one, his is arguably the best one that Mexico has played.
Ooh. I don't know if I can continue this conversation, man. This is hard to listen to.
I mean,
Well,
he had a
can you?
prime roster,
Can
guys.
you?
Come on,
I
the
know. Doesn't
Giovanni, the
matter.
Ache,
Doesn't
the
matter.
Guardado.
Bielsa had a prime roster in '02, and he went home after 3 games.
And I'm sure there's a lot of things you can look behind the scenes, but same time, he had a prime roster. You're comparing him to to the other World Cup teams from Mexico, and he had a prime
Yeah,
roster.
a lot of teams had '94 had a prime roster. That's one of the best teams ever. If you look at the names in there,
and
'98 was really good too.
and you know one thing, Holy, about that, about '98 and 2014,
Yeah,
those coaches didn't have a full cycle.
yeah.
They basically were only with the team about 6 months and stuff like that. So that's why I've always been cautious about. Oh no, we have to respect the cycle. We have to respect el proceso. You know, hell, didn't team from North Africa who that went to the semis.
North
Shit.
Africa, Egypt,
No, yeah,
Morocco.
Morocco,
yeah, Morocco. That guy was only. I mean, he was with the team what,
30
like
days.
6 months.
Yeah, he was. He
Like,
was. Yeah, he was.
yeah, he was there. He was there not even 6 months. I don't think. I think if I read correct, but I don't know. Like I said, whoever it is, let's hope. I'm just gonna hope for the best.
It's gonna be Piojo. You'll be happy. Don't worry.
I'm gonna give you this here is we all know I wanted Nacho Cuadro to have the team, but
Yeah.
he's not even a candidate. And then
Because he's brown.
You know
exactly,
what? I wanted Nacho Cuadro too.
yeah, that's who I wanted. But who do I want? I'm kind of indifferent with the two coaches. Who do I think will end up being the coach? I also think Piojo will probably end up being the guy
Oh man.
who gets the gig. I think they really want to go with the Mexican coach and you know for all the flaws Piojo has, he really isn't he really isn't a bad coach.
No. So,
No,
Nacho,
he's
so
not.
you really want Nacho on beef?
I did, yeah.
I do.
Uh, he's like
I wanted the
he's got the
darkest,
same
most
hair.
Ron. I wanted the darkest, most indigenous coach, so that we
Yeah.
had somebody who was Mexican.
So
The
yeah,
opposite of a Televisa actor.
Yeah, no, I really
exactly.
did want Nacho, man. I
So
like
you
it.
basically, so you want basically a guy that won't be seated at that restaurant for steak. What was it? What's the name of the
Oh
restaurant?
No,
man.
no,
Sanborns,
no.
what was it?
He just won't
What?
be seated at the front. That's the
No,
thing. He
what
won't be
restaurant
seated
was
at the
that?
front.
Yeah,
What
what was the
restaurant?
name of that restaurant?
Those fucking memes. You remember those memes?
Oh man.
But I mean, you think about it. Piojo during the pandemic, man, he was making some really nice TikTok videos of him using his his grill in the back. You remember that?
La carne asada.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
In fact, Carlos, what's his name? The former. He's retired now, but what's his name? Carlos Albert. He was ragging on Piojo. He was bragging on Piojo because he was showing off his cuts, his meat cuts. So I'm just saying. I mean, don't even criticize you for that.
Yeah. So, Jaime, one last thing to add. So,
Yep.
I think Piojo will be in charge. If they went with Almada, I'm not going to be upset about it either. But I do think Piojo.
Wow. Who else we got? Abdias, Team Piojo or Team
All
Almada?
right, guys. I'm Team Almada, but that's what I believe. That's what I really hope for because I think that's what's gonna make us. I'm not even gonna say get us to the next level. Just get us on the right track. Get us on the right track. Get us going. That's what I want. That's what I hope is gonna happen. Now, here's my take. I think Piojo might end up at Cruz Azul Because unfortunately, Potro's going to get fired. Cruz Azul doesn't have a forward. They're getting fucked all the time. Los árbitros nos cogieron esta semana. Like, they're not even talking about it. This was the worst show I've seen in a while. All right. If y'all saw it, you know what I'm talking about. So, all right. Almada goes over there. Piojo inevitably finds a job in Cruz Azul. And everyone writes a happy story.
For you, because
Except
that
for
ain't
El
happening.
Potro.
He's making a whole political run to get that seat. He is not listening to no offers at all. And Televisa is really good at making novelas, and they know the casual fan wants Piojo. They know they bring Piojo on, it will calm the waters for the casual fan.
I think to an extent, I think he's been vilified so much that a lot of people they look down on him and ignore all his achievements.
And like, here's the thing: you have Televisa on one corner, but let's not forget the other big player, which is Azteca America, which is also the guy who got bitch slapped on in the airport. All right, and they're also running their smear campaign against him. All right, and then you have Fox Deportes, which just likes to be messy all over the place, and is reminding you everything bad that Piojo did.
Yeah,
So the
but I
question
still
is,
think they're choose Piojo
what has
because
he
talk to
done?
your casual fans. Talk to your friends that just watch the Selección games here and there. That don't really watch Liga MX too much. And hey, man, after the World Cup sucked, who do you want as coach? Majority of them are going to say, man, they got to bring Piojo back. That guy was great. Your casual fan wants Piojo. Televisa knows their audience. They have the biggest influence. They're going to put in Piojo.
We did have somebody join. Joel Tena. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the Team Almada versus Team Piojo, but he just left. Too shy. But yeah, folks, I'm over time for the night. I would love to continue this conversation next week. Hopefully by then we'll have a coach. Who knows what's gonna happen? But I want to thank all y'all for joining on tonight. We had a great discussion. We're on Twitter Spaces. We're on YouTube Chat. We're on TikTok now. We're all over the place. We're doing it big in 2023. But it starts with you guys. So appreciate y'all for hopping on tonight. Make sure everyone gets home safe, and we'll catch you in the next one.